Hi, welcome to the 50th episode of the Catch the Tornado podcast. On behalf of our whole team, thank you to all of the guests who have given us their time and shared what was often a lifetime's worth of knowledge. And to our listeners, thank you for sticking with us. This week, Piotr speaks to Dominik Angerer, the CEO and founder at Storyblok, one of the first headless visual content management systems on the market. Dominik shares what makes Storyblok unique, the company's business model, their approach to marketing, and community building techniques. He also shares a great strategy on perfecting your pitch and finding the right investor. Tune in.
Hello, everyone. Today, my guest is Dominik Angerer, co-founder of Storyblok, one of the first headless visual content management systems. We are going to talk about the business models, raising money for developers tools, and community building aspects of the product development. Hi, Dominik. I'm super happy you accepted my invitation.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm super happy that you invited me, actually.
That's awesome. Dominik, maybe you're going to tell us about the Storyblok. What is it, how it works, and how you founded the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So Storyblok itself is a headless content management system. So it's a CMS similar to WordPress, Adobe Experience Manager, Sitecore, and so on.
Yep.
So we allow people to manage content fairly easily in an interface. And instead of producing final websites or HTML, we actually only produce data, so JSON data that developers can use from an API perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And we put a twist on it by adding a visual editor. And that is what a visual headless CMS is for us.
Yeah.
And that is Storyblok. When it comes to founding, we founded Storyblok. So Alexander and me, we founded Storyblok about 4 years now. 4 years ago now, yeah. So quite some time.
Yeah, really. 4 years is a lot. I have another question, like why do we need the next CMS? And I suppose you partially answered. I mean, the headless itself, the new architecture is one reason.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is that I haven't found any other CMS having this visual builder natively. And Is it this like or maybe we have other reasons for next CMS? And the second question is, right away is this visual builder, was it there from the very early days, or was it something you added on the way?
Yeah, so actually it was there with the first version, even before we switched to Vue.js. We created the first prototype of Storyblok probably 6 years ago, while Alexander and I were both working in an agency, and we tried every content management system out there, basically. At least it felt like it, like probably about 30, 40, something like that. Yeah. And for us, maybe a little bit background on the story itself. We actually used an enterprise content management system at the agency. And at one point, we sent a feature request to them. And instead of like an ETA or something like that, we actually received a message that they basically told us, hey, in 6 months, the thing is gone.
Gotcha.
How about switching now to our new product that has no functionality whatsoever?
Yeah.
Or the way we saw it, we're looking for something that actually works out there, and use that instead. And so we tried different content management solutions. We liked the idea of the headless content management system itself. But for us, we always had the issue that we had to give it to our marketers or customers. They wanted to actually build things themselves in a certain way. They wanted to have this nestability, the component-based approach to content management. And sadly, most headless CMSs are structured in a way that you can easily build APIs. So you can build collections, you can build single type content types, which you can also do in Storyblok. You can do the same thing. But what we decided to really focus on from the beginning was that you can create components inside your content type. So you have a blocks field that allows you to nest elements directly in one content type itself. That allows you to build something like a page that contains of different components, like a hero, a grid with column in it, a slider with slides in it, the newsletter component. And marketers can easily rearrange that in the content itself because it's just objects that you basically just rearrange in that array of components. And for us, the visual editor was the core of it, like also in the beginning, because how would a marketer actually edit that kind of content without knowing what's going on? Because the feedback that we received when we built POCs with the likes of Sitecore, Adobe Experience Manager, and so on, is that they actually wanted to see a complete preview of whatever they're doing.
Yeah,
and there is nothing like that out there that allows you to have the flexibility as a developer, but still cares about the market enough, not only enough in a certain degree that they actually are enjoying using it.
Gotcha. So having this product as a kind of bridge between the developers and having structuralized headless API with JSON-based documents, but also the marketing folks, visual merchandising guys having the features they understood and like to work with.
Yeah, actually, the small script that we have you to add for the preview and the visual editor to work, it's actually called Storyblok Bridge. So it's exactly what you just described.
Gotcha. That's perfect story. So 6 years ago, you had some POC MVP version, something like this. Then you started the real company. The message you got from this vendor saying that they want to add your feature to this enterprise CMS was kind of inflection point, I guess, that ignited the whole story of Storyblok, which is also great because it wasn't out of the blue. It was a real need. Also, you taught me just that you listen carefully to the needs of both sides of the equation. The content management is always kind of equation because beforehand it was like people wanted to add new components. They needed to go to developers, beg them to add it, wait 6 weeks or how long the deployment process was there at the company and have it. And right now with Storyblok, it works like it's decoupled, right? So developers can add new components and the editors can just manage. I really like it. So it took you some time already to be on the point where you are right now. When did you realize that this is it? I mean, the common wisdom is that for startups, first 3 years is the crucial period because you're gonna find this product market fit or not, you survive or not. And when did you realize that this is it and you have this product market fit and the adoption?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2015, we actually started not with building the product. We started with the evaluating phase. So we actually tried different content management solutions. And only with mid-end of 2016, we started with the first initial prototype itself. And when we did that, we created the first version with PHP. I still remember it, and there were so many reloads in there that it wasn't usable. We switched a few quite fast, so like 2 weeks later with version 0.11, so quite early. And at that point, when we started the prototype, we gave it to one of the most senior clients that we had in the agency back then, just for to trying it basically. And they switched the whole corporate side, including the e-commerce area, in about 4 weeks. 30 languages, 4 weeks. That's quite fast. Of course, with the help of us, and we knew the project in and out. That needs to be clear. But it's still crazy how fast it went. Then the next one we gave it to was a large retailer of sports shoes, and that retailer used it in a not a website setting, actually an iOS, Android setting.
Where they have like a backend, mobile backend, right?
Yeah, exactly. So mobile catalog, instead of having about 3,000 to 4,000 pages catalogs, they now had just an iOS app, so which is quite nice. And what we did after that, we just built smaller POCs for our clients. We pitched it to new clients as well inside the agency. And at the beginning of 2017, we realized that we are not using another CMS anymore. We are just using the thing that we built for storytelling with components, with blocks. So we gave it a name finally. So we called it Storyblok. And shortly after that, we actually decided that we could do more. So what we started was building more enterprise features on top of it, like releases, scheduling. We added content pipelines, more webhook options. So all kind of features that you would just need to get more interaction with other solutions in there and just getting started. And that was the point where we realized that the thing that we are building, it's actually way more powerful than we expected it to be. And so in the mid of 2017, we decided to found a new company. September 2017, we founded it and launched a small landing page and some articles, like how can you use Storyblok in combination with your technology to solve a certain problem.
That's how I found you guys. I was searching for Vue.js headless CMS, kind of like something like this query face, and the first result was I suppose it was Medium article or something like this about the Vue.js into Storyblok, and it was fun. Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, cool that it still works, because that was like just the beginning that we did, and it actually resulted in us already having about 1,000 users after 1 month and being positive already.
And you think that this channel worked well for you? I mean, because I was searching as a developer back then, right? I wasn't like a merchant or enterprise. I was just figuring out how Vue.js can be integrated with CMS. So this was your first traction and first focus. The developers looking for this kind of solution, and Vue.js was growing like it still is, but back then it was super popular. Super high growth. So would you say that picking the Vue.js and focusing on developers was kind of recipe for the first traction you got?
It was definitely a lucky catch, to be honest, because we used Vue.js, and we still use Vue.js because we love it. It just works for us, and it worked back then, and it still works for us now. And naturally, the tool that we use also, we wanted to explain how to use Storyblok with. To build certain things, and that's what we did. There was actually not too much of marketing interest in those blog articles, to be honest. The main idea was we had this live chat on the website. Like at the bottom right corner, it's still there. It's still no bots. It's still humans that answer you if you write something there. And what we did, Alexander and I, we were in there like 24/7, and we still are from time to time, to be honest. But we were in there. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to get as much feedback as possible. And a lot of feedback was around documentation. So we, instead of just explaining it once to that one customer that is in the live chat, we just started creating more documentation around topics that they asked us. How to solve this, how to solve that with this specific technology, how does it compare to X, Y, Z, and so on. And that's what we just did. We just created content that we were asked to. Then we realized, the same content that we just created could be useful for other technologies as well. So we tried to solve the same problem in other technologies like React, like PHP, Ruby, Python, and so on. And that's what we did. We just created content that is basically fast documentation, to be honest. And it resulted in more and more people trying it because, hey, there was documentation and it seems to work. And it just worked out,
That's cool. So what you said as I suppose is the early traction. So early adopters. If you have this, crossing the chasm chart, you have innovators, early adopters, and those guys like me back then were searching about the Vue.js, React, whatever framework you have, and content management. But then you probably targeted some different clients having more budget, I suppose. My next question is, who's your ideal client and how it evolved across the years? Because I guess it could change or maybe not. Who's your ideal client? How you approach them? Like how you find those folks buying Storyblok?
Yeah, so actually not that much changed. Not even the pricing, to be honest. Like the pricing just got better.
The business model is typical SaaS, or it's somehow okay.
So it's Storyblok is a typical SaaS product. So you're paying per user, per project, basically, so per space, and that on a monthly or yearly basis. And we have two different areas. We have the self-service area, which is the one that is used mostly for smaller projects, SMBs to mid-market kind of business.
What do you mean self-service? It's still in the cloud, right? It's SaaS, but you don't get you don't get your account manager support. This kind of self-service, you mean?
You still have the community support, the standard support that is still included. But with self-service, we mean like you can register, you can start your project, and when you need more users, you can just go in there and subscribe with a credit card using Stripe. And that's it. You don't need any interactions with us. So it's basically the hands-off method of you like scaling your project inside Storyblok, and it starts for free. So you have actually unlimited API requests. You can just jump in, play around with Storyblok. One user is completely free and will stay for free, and you can just create content and use the API itself and most of the features, to be honest. And then you can put roles on top that you would need if you have more users and so on, and therefore scale with the pricing. So $7, $13 to $23 to $21, something like that.
Gotcha.
And that was from the beginning. Like that was the initial pricing that we always put up, and we later on realized that more and more people would love to have a contractual uptime guarantee, that we guarantee a certain level of service. And also like emergency SLAs that we help actually them to also see like, hey, the website is broken for some degree. Is it reflected from some issues of Storyblok in back or something like that? And so we added this enterprise plan on top of it, which is the same product, different infrastructure, kind of. At least some points are where we can even have a high uptime guarantee for those clients. And we can enable single sign-on with internal solutions like Salesforce login and stuff like that. So really enterprise features that you would need if you are a large corporate or like a large mid-market company itself. And those are the two tiers that we have, self-service and enterprise. And it's still the same. Nothing changed there. And to answer your second question, like how do we attract them? Actually, I guess by now it's a lot of word of mouth. Plus, we actually still creating articles and content. And the content is now not only pure technical anymore, because we already captured quite a lot of articles there, but we also started creating articles for marketers. So they know the benefit of a headless and a decoupled way of, for example, using a few storefront for the front end, using Storyblok in the back end as a CMS, using commerce tools, BigCommerce or any other e-commerce tool or client in the background for the commerce purposes, and then combining it to have a fast experience for the customers itself. And those are articles that we just create and content that we create. And we even wrote a full ebook about e-commerce in 2021, about 70 pages, just knowledge of the people that we have here at Storyblok and the surroundings that we asked. And so that content itself helps us to attract those customers.
Is the e-commerce the main segment of the market you find your clients in, or not only?
Not only. So we actually, it's actually quite interesting. We started with the e-commerce marketing late last year. Before that, it was always a combination of we know that it's a huge market to grow with, but with the end of last year, we built integrations for e-commerce vendors. Natively into Storyblok, and that's where we started to actually really push on the marketing side there. When it comes to our customers, they're quite distributed. We have many financial institutes like P1, Amsterdam Trading Bank, and so on. So quite huge banks, to be honest. And
that's awesome.
Also e-commerce, of course, as you mentioned, like Happy Socks. It's just amazing, or Askid, or all those cool new shops that pop up that are actually having good products. But we are also used in a completely different setting. We also have a car manufacturer using us for their car configurator. So the configuration options that you have in the car configurator are configured inside Storyblok. So
I suppose it's super complex.
Actually, that's the cool thing. So the preview that we have, it's just an iframe that allows you to have this JavaScript bridge enabled. And what they used for their marketing people that creates those kind of configuration for configurators, they just put in a WebAssembly 3D preview of the model itself in the iframe. And now they can interact with that right away and they can play around. So it's actually not that hard for them to manage configuration for configurators, because they can just see it. So it's really nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I suppose it's a way more complex under the hood.
Yeah, 100%.
The data structure. Yeah.
100%.
That's awesome. So what you already told me is that the model works for you and works great is kind of having developers as ambassadors of your brand and your product. So never mind you're a small, medium, or enterprise client. Probably the way you get to the Storyblok is that your developers read your content or maybe tried out some boilerplates or GitHub, whatever, they find it. They like it because it's so cool. The APIs are so cool. The product is great. And they are doing great job internally, convincing the business that this is the right choice. Right? Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's definitely one way to do it. And that's the way we always focus on. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, we have a lot of things to do in the onboarding. There are cool things happening in the background. So the onboarding is more smooth and more streamlined and works for more people. Even though the product itself is really good, like we can do a lot on the onboarding. So for all those people that want to try Storyblok, please keep hanging in there and try it, even though the onboarding isn't that good right now. But it will be better soon. I promise. The product is worth it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this movement. I mean, low code or no code. Few weeks ago, I also discovered another tool. I'm gonna ask you for your opinion. Maybe you know it. It's called Retool. It looks like probably you know Delphi or Visual C# web forms. You know those visual apps editors, and they did it something like this, where you use kind of JavaScript, it's very simplified, building the kind of database apps. I suppose it's more for database. Maybe it's the benchmark is Microsoft Access. Years ago, but modern tech, fully web. It's so awesome. I'm really excited about this low-code architecture. Is it architecture? Is more like a trend probably? Do you think is a next big thing, and Storyblok is also heading this direction, or you rather stick with best possible tools for content?
Yeah.
How you see that?
So Storyblok is always focusing on content and how you can manage the content and how you can reduce the content. But how I see the category, I guess it's not about no code or low code, because you can use Storyblok and build a whole data structure in itself and the nesting without touching code at all. Like there's no code involved. But there's a difference between having a no code tool like Wix and so on, where you have you can build a page with no code at all and then just push it out there somewhere, and building data, because what are you going to do with the data? There needs to be something else that allows you to build something on top of that. So there is code involved. And I see those tools, including Storyblok, as developer convenience. It's basically a way for you to abstract away a lot of things that you don't actually want to do. Like the worst thing that we can do for headless CMS, because we think as a headless CMS, you should not care about your CMS. You just care about your data, your structures. You can the basic experience for your marketers and the way you consume the data. But you should not end up hosting it yourself, because then you need to care about it again. Because one large portion of this headless thing, in our mind at least, like when Alexander and I started, we wanted a CMS where you don't have a maintenance to do. Basically, where we care about your data structure, that we do not break the API, and we just go forward with new features on top of it and new versions, But the
maintenance is pretty significant part of the content delivery itself.
Yes,
and Storyblok is doing this part as well. I think it's a huge benefit for developers. You can just take it. It's there, and you can take it. You can use it.
Yeah, and tools like Retool, or Superbase, it feels like a lot of developer convenience in there, because you can just spawn your databases really easily. You can use the API to build something nice. So definitely developer convenience tools, 100%.
Yeah, the question is, to which extent supported. I mean, those tools like you mentioned, Superbase, Retool. There is also a different category of tools like Airtable, also open source equivalents of it. I suppose the question is to which extent you're gonna provide those convenience tools, because there is still this issue like Visual Basic had years ago. No developer liked to use it because it was so, how to say that, it was too easy or too abstract, too high level, something like this. I remember that I was preferring Delphi and then C# because it led me to do whatever I liked, and in Visual Basic I just could do whatever they let me. So my personal opinion is that your way is kind of low code, but it's more developer oriented, because you still have low code and no code with Storyblok and products like it, because as a developer you don't have to build all those admin panels, data management, ORM kind of things. You have just your data and you just use a little bit of JavaScript. Let's say a little bit, it could be a lot, but in some cases it would be just a little bit of JavaScript to organize those components. Or maybe you can just encapsulate the business logic and have it configurable in Storyblok, like the parameters of the components, and that's it. I think that's the way, having the same functionality like Retool and other tools, but it's more open. I really like it because it doesn't push the developers into single way road.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
Yeah, maybe on that. So as you mentioned, like the pushing developers in one way. You can actually extend Storyblok's interface, even though we're a SaaS solution.
You can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use.
I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
So you can change the editor tools.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can just add a custom field type, which is just a few components that you drop in. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing special in there. You can use any kind of API that you want to load in there. It's just the easy. That's our custom field types. Then we have tools which have a full OAuth and authentication flow. That allows you to integrate with any kind of localization tool or something like that, where you need access to the management API. And then we have a third option as well, which we call now sidebar apps. And the sidebar apps itself, in Storyblok, the main navigation is a sidebar on the left side with the content, data source, and so on. And on the left side, you can actually add your own custom sidebar element. And what that allows you to do is to add any kind of solution that you normally, one thing that we always knew is that when you build a CMS or when you use a CMS, you end up having like small convenience tool for your marketers somewhere, and you end up building like some admin panel somewhere. And instead of
now you can have it in Storyblok
directly integrated with authentication and everything. It's just in there for one marketing solution. And you can just do that. So definitely, even though we're a SaaS business, you have those kind of flexibility directly built in.
I really like it. So it's integrated like a kind of micro frontends or something like this, that you build the React or Vue, whatever kind of components, and they are bundled, and you provide the bundle with some JS interface, and it's just imported.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay. I really like it. That's cool. We can talk the tech things the next hour, but let me get back to my list of topics, because the next one is super interesting. It's about the funding. I know that you closed a round not that long ago. Was it like last year or 2019? I was not sure.
So there were two rounds, one in 2019 and was one in February this year.
Okay, that's even more interesting. How you pitch the VC venture capitalists about the developers tools? Because I suppose it's not that easy. I mean, maybe it depends. I had a great interview with Sasha Widziborski from Atomico VC, and they apparently got it really well. How developers
great,
work.
Yeah,
He's a great guy. how it looked in your case, and which VCs probably founded you, and why they decided, how you pitched them, and how the process looked like.
Yeah, so for the first round that we did in 2019, we actually looked specifically after bootstrapping the company to that point for helping growing the company itself, maturity, getting a large team, just scaling even faster. And we looked first of all in the Austrian market, where VCs are not that widespread. But they're really, really good for certain things. And we knew Peter Lasinger, which is really amazing. And he's working with his partner at FreeVC. And he helped us already way before he invested, actually. Whenever we had business questions, because Alexander and I, we both developers, when we had business questions or wanted to this overview kind of view on topics, we just pinged him, and Peter was nice enough to reply. Maybe because he was sitting basically right next to us in a company that he was helping with, in the open office space that we were sitting. But when we talked to him about actually thinking about raising some money, he mentioned that we should focus on those that have actually already backgrounds from a VC perspective in those tech scene, B2B, SaaS companies scene, because they will get what you're trying to do. And so we got out there, we tried different, we talked to different VCs, actually quite a lot, to be honest, a lot. It's really a lot of work for you to do that. It's not something you do on a weekend or late at night. You still do that, but that's just the on top of things part. But it's a lot of work in the background that you need to do being able to do all that. But that resulted in us having so many different views on us that we also used the same thing to test how we pitch it. So we learned how to pitch Storyblok to different audiences, because not all VCs are highly technical and understand right away what you're doing. On the other hand, some of them are really technical. And so we after a while, we got in touch with First Minute, which is a London-based VC. And I had a chat with Sam Arek there. And when I had this chat with Sam Arek, they immediately got it. Because they already did research in headless CMS markets. They looked at different vendors. They looked at different solutions, and they know what they're doing. And when I had a chat with them, it felt like they actually do care about what we are doing, and they can put more in than just money, because that was really important for us. We don't just need money because we're profitable, and we are still operating profitable at this point. Even though we had 2 funding rounds, we used that money to grow, not to fund the operations. And when we had the first chat with them, they already had some really good suggestions in the right directions that we wanted to have. And also recommended us different people to talk to when it comes to not VC, but when it comes to hiring people, good points in certain directions and things that we didn't thought about. And that ended up with our first seed funding round, which was the seed round itself in 2019, late 2019. I guess, if I remember it correctly, I signed the first funding around Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, in 2019, and then we announced it shortly after that, and it was 2.5 million that we raised back then, and we started growing the team quite heavily in 2020. We hired, we actually, as you mentioned before, ambassadors. We have ambassadors at Storyblok, and one of the first hires was Sam, or head of dev relations at this point, and Sam basically was knocking at the door all the time, and I was like, "Yes, Sam, soon, please wait." And so we just hired a lot of people that formed an amazing core team that we have now, and we then realized last year that maybe more backgrounds. I moved to London last year, 2020. At the beginning of 2020, to be closer to First Minute, to get more information from them, to be more involved with them, because I could see that we can get a lot of benefits out of that. At the same time, we were part of an accelerator called Founders Factory that helped us push even further. And in the 3 months that I was in London, because Corona, I moved back and stuff. But in the first 3 months, I had the opportunity to talk to so many amazing people. I was able to talk to Luca from Excel, which is fantastic. Like he really knows what he's doing. So that is one of those tech VCs. Also, as you mentioned, Sasha from Atomico and Irina, amazing people. Same is true for Dawn Capital. And there's so many amazing VCs out there that do not just look at numbers, but what you're trying to achieve. And that allows you to pitch it in a more natural way. So you can actually pitch it the way you understand your company and try them to understand it as well. And when we did that, we were in touch with Muadala as well, like later, I guess it was like May or June last year when we started chatting with Fortune Barb. And when we chatted with them, they immediately understood what we are after and what we're trying to do. And they not only bring in like a substantial amount of money fast to grow faster, but the advice that they give us and the small pushes here and there, plus the team that they have to support us in like enterprise sales and so on, it's just amazing. And that resulted in another round that we announced in February this year of $8.5 million US dollar on top of the 2.5 that we already have. So
that's really something. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot. Thanks. It's really a lot of work. Like you need to get the clearance of banks, which is quite interesting topic right now in the EU itself because of all the money laundering kind of topics that banks have right now. So that's a challenge in itself. And like you need to get your numbers right. You need to understand your business in and out. And if you do that, you will not face that many issues, to be honest, because people understand when you're doing something that actually works, and therefore you can even though it's a developer tool, there are people that understand developer tools out in the VC world.
That sounds fantastic. Like I asked this question to understand your way, but to be perfectly honest, like me personally, I'm thinking that Storyblok is even after this talk, I'm even more convinced that it's the best option for VCs to invest in. You have company based. Listen, just you have company which is growing rapidly, attracting developers that are your sales ambassadors for free because they just like you. They just like to work with you with your product, which is awesome. It's SaaS. It's enterprise SaaS. Has a great community. This is something I ask you in a second about the community. So it has a great, vibrant community, and this community is growing. I remember Filip Rakowski from ViewStorefront, who approached me like 2 years ago, I suppose, teaching me about Storyblok and why we should use it with ViewStorefront. So it was amazing, like how excited he was. So that's super cool. And then you are profitable, which is being profitable with such a growing product and for developers, not always that obvious thing. So there is no risk, actually, like from the financial point of view, investing into you guys. So, well, I mean, it's great job you did. And I'm a really, fan of the product and thumbs up.
Thank you.
The last... not the last question, but the last topic I like to direct this talk into is the community and how you manage to have such a vibrant ecosystem of developers, tools, partners around your product. Because I find it pretty unique. It's like it's so vibrant as you were open source, you are not, and works perfectly well. Having clear business model, which is also cool because having a great product which is fully open and totally free, and having open community around it is not that easy, but it's way easier than having commercial product and the same kind of community around it. So what is the recipe for it?
We have amazing people like Sam, Lisi, Christian, Sebastian, working purely on the dev experience, working with those people. We have an amazing support like Hannes. He's like 24/7 somehow in the chat, in the live chat, and he's helping out so many people. And I guess at one point, people just started liking it to a certain degree that they want to be involved. And we also try to have our Stories at the Blocks event where we talk about the product update, where we try to highlight people from the community itself. For example, in the last Stories of the Block, Albert actually had a talk about design systems and how you can use it in combination with Storyblok, and it was just amazing. There is so much thing that we can learn from each other, that we felt like we wanted to create a space where people can learn from each other. And also tell us the things that we do wrong. So really honest feedback. And the cool thing is with the team surrounding Sebastian, Sam, Lisi, Christian, and so on, they actually made it possible for us to grow in that direction. So it's a lot of effort that they are putting in. It's not something that I or Alex managed. I guess it's something that we as a team together managed. Big shout outs to our DevFix team. They're just amazing, and they made it possible to build such an amazing community that we have. Because it's really important for us that people understand that even though we are a SaaS business, even though we are a business, we actually care about what developers think. We care about open source. So we are sponsoring Next.js for the last X years. I don't even know how long. We are sponsoring Vue.js. We are sponsoring different other open source tools out there. I mean, right now the most GitHub sponsoring is on my personal account, but we need to transfer it someday to the Storyblok organization. But there, even before GitHub sponsors, we used Open Collective, and we tried to give back something from the things that we made out of it and what helped us grow. Because the best possible thing that we can do is, instead of pushing others down, is to lift everybody up, because that will help all of us just achieving more. There's no need in us pushing open source down, because essentially we are built with open source tools. We're using Vue, we're using Nuxt, we're using Next, we're using different tools that just are out there, and the best thing we can do is just to support them in the best possible way.
That sounds awesome. So I noted two key points from what you said, and I will save it for the projects I'm engaged into as well. One is to be inclusive, and that's super cool, to be present, to be where the questions are asked and the people need help. That's super cool. And you even said before that sometimes even you are core team members are on the live chat, which is awesome because you are very close to the mother and how people use your product. And the second thing is to give back, to contribute back to the tools you are using, which is also cool. Okay, that's perfect. Let me ask my favorite and the last question, actually, which is about the tech trends. Which one you find overhyped and underhyped, or maybe which one makes you excited?
Yeah, so I have actually no idea where I should start when it comes to the hyped part.
Yeah,
but we see a lot of database tools out there, like convenience tools, as you mentioned, and I'm really looking forward to find something for business logic, not management content, because we see a clear separation there. Headless CMS content management solutions should be used for content that is managed by humans, but there needs to be a pendant to that when it comes to business logic data content like that, user identification, session management, all those different things that you might want to do. And there are things popping up like SATA, like Superbase, and there's a lot of things going on in that space, and that's something that is slightly underhyped right now, I guess. Like that's something that could be more because it's really cool, because it's the one thing that I think is still missing in the whole Jamstack static, but also generating cache kind of worlds, like a proper serverless kind of database infrastructure provider, and with a nice and workable interface for developers. The convenience is correct, because you could just use AWS DynamoDB, but it just doesn't feel right to a certain degree. And trends that are over, I'm not sure if it's over, but something that we see a lot of customers deciding against is GraphQL after trying it for several months. And even we had some customers that used it for now 2 years. And we saw that they, not only with Storyblok, but also with other tools, they decided to switch back to REST APIs because there's so much learning overhead for new junior developers getting into GraphQL that they could not, I would say they could not argue about the cost of having them onboarded versus the benefit that they got out of it. So we see a lot of companies in the enterprise sector moving away from GraphQL again. We are still investing heavily in GraphQL. To be honest, we're actually building on top of GraphQL or updating our GraphQL API quite a lot in this year. So there will be many changes with many more possibilities. But it's interesting to see, like something growing quite fast, and then getting to this end of the hype cycle, and then now reaching the level of seniority that people are using it when they really have to and want to use it. Because before that, it went from having a new tool that everybody wants to try, and they put it in everything. And now we can see exactly where it really makes sense to use it and where not. So it's really nice to see that is not happening, even though it's not an trend over, I guess, but it's something that we just see. Those are the two things. So when it comes to no-code tools itself, I'm still looking forward to having some kind of possibility to get the whole flow done, like having something like Figma or Sketch producing designs for components, updating some properties or information in a storybook that then has the code in itself that was developed, and then having storybook components in the fields that you can define there, generate Storyblok components so marketing people can use. That would be just amazing. Like having the whole flow from design, developer, marketer in one cohesive kind of streamlined way. That would be just amazing. So that's underhyped for sure. Like people should try building that. And I know some are trying to do that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's fully doable. Like there are no barriers to build something like this.
Yeah, and that's the pleasure of having APIs for all of those things. You can do it. And like there's just nothing.
You can definitely do it. Yeah, that's really cool part of it. Okay, Dominik, thank you for your time. It was great talking to you. That's awesome. Guys, if you have any questions after our discussion, please post it under the comments. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to this episode. And see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Catch the Tornado podcast. Make sure you subscribe us on your favorite platform and see you next week.